So we're going to start off by creating our staging project, which is just going to be a game animation sample template. We're going to be using this template to pretty much make sure all of our animations are set up correctly using the right chooser tables and the appropriate anim notifiers. So yep, the project seems to be running just fine. From there we're going to go into our animations folder, go into our motion matching data, and just check out what's happening inside of these chooser tables. So if you explore these chooser tables, you'll see we have a dense chooser table and a sparse chooser table. And the difference between those is that if you go in and let's say look at the stops, the walk stops, you'll see that our dense chooser table has a lot more walk stops than our sparse chooser table. And if we go into our master table and change these dense tables to sparse tables, we can have a look at how this sparse chooser table works inside the project. And as you can see, it's pretty smooth. We do lose some detail just because we're not using over 500 animations anymore, but the sparse table is going to be a great foundation for us to build off. So let's duplicate that and name it daggers instead of sparse. We want to create a new folder to hold our databases in, so we're just going to make a new folder called daggers, and we're going to go and find the stand idle that's inside of our sparse chooser table. And we're going to duplicate that, rename it to daggers stand idles, and move that into our daggers folder. Once that's in there, we'll open it up and see what's in here. As you can see, we have a crouch to stand and an idle. And we're going to replace that idle with our own animations. So let's make another daggers folder inside the animations folder of our UEFN mannequin. And what we want to do is pretty much get our animations in here. So drag them in and choose your UEFN skeleton as the skeleton. If you've downloaded the FBX files correctly, they should import without a hitch, and you'll see all these folders in your project. I'm just going to save the animations, and we want to start by checking the rotation data of our prop or our weapon IK. And to do that, we're going to go to AFox1's channel, and we're just going to quickly download these free fantasy weapons and import them into our project. So once you've imported those, you should be able to find the weapons kit, and today we're actually going to be looking at using the daggers. So there are your daggers. So to use these daggers, we need to create sockets on our UEFN mannequin skeleton, and we want to run a test animation to make sure those weapons are moving the way they should. So if we go to our weapon L and add a socket, we can change the name of this socket to weapon L. We want to do the same thing for the weapon R bone, add a socket, and just change the socket name to weapon R. To test our animations, we need to add a preview mesh to our sockets. So let's add a dagger to each of those, the weapon L socket and the weapon R socket. And once you've got these preview meshes attached to their respective sockets, we can run a preview animation to check if our weapon rotation data is coming through correctly. So let's go and find the upper back unequip and see what it looks like. So immediately you can tell that these animations weren't made for this particular mesh. So we're going to have to do a little bit of rotational work on our sockets to make these animations look a bit more convincing. So we're just going to turn our sockets 90 degrees. So just go to your weapon L and R sockets and just turn them like so, so that it looks a bit more convincing. Now if you scrub through the animation, you'll see that our rotation and location values are now working just fine for our daggers.